Week 7 has officially finished off as we move into week 8 and pretty much towards the halfway mark in the season. I can't believe we're already this far, but we do have plenty to talk about. And I'm Adam Wright with CJ Medeiros. You were listening to the Fumblerooski podcast by Power 88 and Secret Weapon Consulting. So, CJ, you ready to talk some Tom Brady, AFC East, the Colts? The Colts, they just benched Matt Ryan less than halfway through the season.
You know, I don't want to talk about Tom Brady like that, but looks like I'm going to have to.
Yep. At the end of the day, we do have to be an unbiased podcast page. And although we are religious Tom Brady followers, we got to speak critically on this.
Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, you got to call it like you see it. And right now, I do not like what I'm seeing.
Bro's handling a divorce, and his team went below 500. And his offensive line is still just completely banged up. It's really awful. But we're going to jump right into that. And so the Patriots.
Jeez.
So the Buccaneers lose, and they fall to 3-4. This is the first time a Brady-led team has fallen below 500 7 weeks into the season since 2002. So, CJ, I have to ask this question, and I'm dying inside asking this. Is Tom Brady done after this season?
I don't know. Plain and simple, I do not know. Now, I think I saw on Bleacher Report, he said something along the lines of there's no plans for retirement in my future. But I honestly, for the first time, I don't know if I believe him. I mean, maybe his struggles this season you can attribute to the impending divorce. I imagine it weighs on him. His O-line's banged up. His whole team's just crumbling. I don't understand what's going on. And I would say his age is showing, but you saw in that, I don't know if you watched the Carolina game, but Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, Brady was placing the ball right on them, and they were just dropping wide open, easy passes, especially Mike Evans in that first quarter. Godwin too a little bit, but I don't know. Just if I were Brady right now, I would ride out the rest of the year and I would say, you know what? I'm done. I mean, think about it. He's the GOAT. We know he's the GOAT. He has nothing left to prove. Just ride off into the sunset and don't become a withered husk of yourself like Peyton Manning or Drew Brees or Ben Roethlisberger in their final years. Remember those? Those were goddamn terrible. But is Brady done? I mean, that's really the only question Brady himself can answer. I can tell you that if I were Brady, he'd be done, but I'm leaning toward no. I don't think he'll allow himself to be done. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So the way I look at it, he may not be done with his playing career. At least I don't believe so. He could retire. But I think he's going to be done as a Buccaneer. He might go somewhere else because we already have seen confirmed rumors that the Dolphins did in fact go all in on Tom Brady to try and land him and Sean Payton in the past. And it seems like it almost happened. So clearly he had some sort of desire to go there. And of course, after it dies out, Bruce Arians is out. So it's interesting how this all worked out. Now, will he be a Miami Dolphin? Who knows? They might stick with Tua. But I do think, with the way this team is going, the chemistry with him and the team just doesn't seem the same. He doesn't seem on the same page with Mike Evans or Chris Godwin. You can't just blame the two of the better running wide receivers in the game. Can't do that. And you also can't look at Tom Brady and say, this guy can still play. Or he can't still play because it looks like he still has the abilities and he doesn't look like he's lost really that much. In fact, I don't think he's lost anything at all. Seems like a mental thing. Maybe something off the field with all this stuff going on with his family. Maybe something with, the adjusting to a new coach. It's Todd Bowles who runs a much different offense that may not make Tom Brady quite as happy. I mean, maybe he didn't like Bruce Arians. But say what you want about him, he always let the quarterback throw the ball. He let him sling it. and Brady loved it, and he threw 40 or more touchdown passes in each of the past 2 seasons. He's absolutely not on pace to do that this season. He'll be lucky if he hits 30 at this point. And like maybe it's partially that, but really I just can't look at it in his physical abilities. It doesn't look like those are diminished right now. And it also doesn't look like he's on the same page with the rest of the team, which might tell me that maybe he's not done in general with playing football, but I do think he might move on to a different team. Because you don't come out of retirement, wind up getting a divorce just to hang it up after 1 year. You just don't do that at that point. I know he has a deal with Fox, but I bet they'd wait it out for a couple of years. It's Tom Brady. They're going to wait. But the way you look at it, it just wouldn't make sense for him to retire after just this 1 year. It just doesn't anymore. I thought it made sense before because I thought he would go out with a ring. Then he had all these issues with his family, and like also these issues with the team. You can't go out like this. You can't. He's practically losing his family. There's no way you lose all of that just to say, yeah, I'm done after this year. You know? I just don't see it that way, especially since he clearly still has the physical ability to do it on the NFL level. So that's kind of my 2 cents.
Yeah, I hear you. I do. And I mean, I do agree, when you say that that he might be done with Tampa, but not done in the league. But once again, before we end the segment, I will reiterate, if he were smart, he would hang it up. And Adam, I know you said that, oh, no, we shouldn't do that. But I mean, at this point, salvage what you can with Giselle and your children and just get out. Because he always said he wanted to play till age 45. And guess what? He's 45. You made a promise. Now just hang it up. Because you have that multi-million-dollar deal with Fox. Just go do that, man. And honestly, I'm starting to get a little worried about him. It's like, I know he eats, sleeps, and breathes football. But, oh, man, I'm starting to worry that it's going to be like the death of him. I'm not talking about like physically. I'm saying that everything in his social life will like just wither all around him.
Right. But I'm just worried at this point now that maybe they hired divorce lawyers. So it doesn't seem like I have no ties in that family, obviously. But when you hire divorce lawyers, does that not seem like it's not salvageable? Like, it seems like they both.
I don't know. Maybe not. I don't know. That doesn't necessarily. Hey, man, a divorce isn't official until pen hits paper.
That's true.
Just ask Josh McDaniels and the Colts.
And yeah, and if he decides to hang it up and they salvage everything, good for him. He goes out, happy ending. Maybe the Bucs make the playoffs. Maybe they don't. They are in first right now, technically. But
their whole division's garbage.
Yeah, first is first, and if you get first, you're automatically in the playoffs. So
yeah, Seattle was 7-9 into that, and look what happened to them.
Just got to find a way to sneak in. Could be the first 7-9 team to make the playoffs and win the Super Bowl. And Tom Brady will create another milestone. Just kidding. This team has a very small chance of winning the Super Bowl, if any. So for those of you accusing me of bias, there you go. I don't believe in this Buccaneers team. I don't. And I wish Tom Brady the best in whatever he does going forward. But we do want to move on. So now that we've talked about Tom Brady, we're going to talk about that AFC East division, which is looking awfully competitive. And we'll hit on all the storylines hitting with them because it's a very eventful division. Plenty of headlines going around from around the league in the AFC East. We'll hit on that next. This is the Fumblerooski podcast.
Here's Edelman broken up, and the pass is no sign yet. Edelman comes down with a football. They're saying it's a catch.
This is the Fumblerooski podcast by Power 88 and Secret Weapon Consulting. Adam Wright with CJ Medeiros. So the AFC East division has gotten a little dicey, but yet competitive. So the Buffalo Bills, first place, 6-1 record, or no, 5-1.
Yeah, I think they're 5-1.
5-1 because they had a bye. That's correct.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have the New York Jets, 5-2. Then you have the Miami Dolphins, 4-3. And then after that, the Patriots at 3-4. They're the only team below 500. And they did have a chance to go above it when they did not and got blown out by the Bears. But, CJ, do you see this being like the NFC East of the AFC? So the other East team becoming the most competitive?
You know what? Yeah, I do. And I would actually argue that the AFC East is far and away the most competitive in the AFC. In fact, you could argue they're probably what the AFC West was supposed to be, if you catch my drift. I mean, consider this. We all know someone's got to lose, and it looks like right now it's the Patriots. But the Patriots in and of themselves aren't that bad of a team. I mean, they've shown that they can win. They already have 3 wins. And, Miami has had like some bad luck with injuries, and Tua Tagovailoa, with his brain getting destroyed. The Jets are surprising everyone, and the Bills are exactly who we thought they were going to be. So, yeah, I wouldn't. Now, I do think this division is Buffalo's to lose, but unlike the beginning of the year, I don't think that it's clear-cut. They're going to take it, no questions asked. Every team, whether it be the Patriots, who, like I said, they're not the best, but they have some fight in them, or the Dolphins or Jets, who are also above 500. Any one of these teams can win or lose on any given day, and you can't just call the division quite yet. But long story short, Adam, to answer your question, I would say the AFC East is the most competitive team in the AFC. Honestly, second, and probably the second most in the NFL, just behind the NFC East.
Yeah, I would say that it's honestly it is like looking at the records here among the AFC. It's really been a disappointing conference because of all those players who flocked over to the AFC, especially the AFC West, which has been very disappointing. Half of that division's below 500. The Vegas Raiders 2-4, Denver Broncos 2-5. Other than that, I mean, you really. You got the Buffalo Bills at 5-1, and so here's two parts that you and I wanted to discuss off camera. The New York Jets might be 5-2, but they just lost their most dynamic weapon in Breece Hall at the running back position. This has been a team that's been very defense and running the ball oriented. Their defense has been dominant I wouldn't say dominant, but very, very, very good. And Breece Hall has led that rushing game, and now they leave it to Michael Carter. Then they go out and they trade for James Robinson. So they have those two to lead the backfield. So without Breece Hall, do you see them still being able to produce on the same level?
Offensively, not really. I mean, this is no disrespect to James Robinson, who they traded for, but he's not Breece Hall. Breece Hall was arguably the front runner to get Offensive Rookie of the Year this year, and that's definitely going to take a big chunk out of their running game. And for those of you at home that are saying, oh, but what about Michael Carter? Hey, do you really think they trust him to be RB1? They literally just traded for James Robinson. That doesn't exactly scream, I'm comfortable with Michael Carter being RB1. But I don't know. I don't even know if the Jets were legit to begin with, because they're winning, but they're not. But other than the Dolphins game, they're not really winning pretty, I mean, there's a difference, I know, between a win and a convincing win. I mean, but if you're winning these 16-9 scrums, I'm going to have to look at you a little funny. And the road's just going to get a little bit tougher without Breece Hall. Now, I do like Robert Saleh, but I really don't know if if he can make them a playoff contender. But then again, the AFC is just really up for grabs. So who really knows at this point? But yeah, I think it's going to be a little bit tougher without Hall.
Yeah, I mean, when you have that workhorse back who is like a special talent. I mean, you look at some of the running backs around the league, the Dalvin Cooks, the Christian McCaffreys around the league. You can even say Najee Harris whenever he has a competent offensive line and a quarterback like Ben Roethlisberger who's willing to pepper him with targets. Then that's pretty hard to replace. Even when you go with a little committee with James Robinson and Michael Carter, who are both very respectable in their own rights, but this could take a hit because it's not really the same as that one dynamic guy who can make everyone miss. He can do everything. Neither though, I've always liked Michael Carter and I love James Robinson. I'm very impressed by his progress from this Achilles tear, but I don't see. I really hope they can figure it out, but they might still win games because they're 5-2 and they're on a roll, and just their offense might not be the same, and they might need to go more towards a passing offense, maybe a little more, not quite. We're not going with a pass first offense, but they're going to have to get more involved in the passing game with Garrett Wilson, Corey Davis, Elijah Moore, even though he asked for a trade. They're gonna have to do that, aren't they?
Yeah, I agree. However, I would like to say one thing.
Yeah.
For those who don't know, remember how I said, Zach Wilson, they're winning, but they're not winning pretty. A lot of that, like I said, like I'm about to say, comes down to Zach Wilson. He hasn't thrown a touchdown since October 2nd. He has a completion percentage of 57%, 693 passing yards, a touchdown, and 2 picks for a passer rating of 73.6.
Yep.
That's all I'm saying. I mean, Jets, you're 5-2. I'm happy for you. I am. But if you want to reach that upper echelon, if you want to be true contenders and not just a one and done wild card, you're gonna have to start airing it out a little bit more. You drafted Zach Wilson in the second, with the second overall pick. Time to trust him.
Yeah, I mean, defense and running the ball, man. Defense and running the ball, which has been exactly what they've done, and it has worked. Just if you're going now that they don't have Breece Hall anymore, I just think they might have to go to more of. They might have to trust the passing game with Zach Wilson now. And they have some pieces that they can throw to that they haven't this year. So they're going to have to figure it out with Zach Wilson and start to take the training wheels off with him, even though we're 2 years in.
What? This is only his second season.
That's what I'm saying. Second season.
Oh, okay.
He's on to his second season. So this is where you need to start seeing strides from him. But, what did he have, 10 completions for 186 yards?
Last game?
And no touchdowns in his last game?
Last game, he had 121 yards and a completion percentage of 61%, no touchdowns, no picks.
All right. So, oof.
I can see why Elijah Moore wants a trade, just saying.
And I'm not willing to give up on him just yet, but
no, neither am I.
The fact that they don't trust him yet. They don't trust him to start throwing the ball yet. It's a bit of a problem.
A little bit.
So there's our Jets take. But I wanted to get to the Patriots specifically. Now we were talking about making this the segment for our second segment, but Patriots, Mac Jones, Bailey Zappi. Here's what happened on Monday Night Football. Mac Jones throws a pick. He's limping around, and they take him out of the game early. Then Bailey Zappi comes in. He almost immediately throws a touchdown pass to Jacoby Myers. He threw a great jump ball to Devontae Parker, and they were able to, in a blink of an eye, turn a 10-0 deficit to a 14-10 lead in like that. Then the wheels fell off after that, like shortly after that. It quickly fizzled out. And next thing you know, Bailey Zappe's final stat line ends with a 1-2 touchdown to interception ratio. He threw 2 picks. So the part that's been really helping him, the fact that he's just not turning the ball over, that wasn't the case this game. So who do you start now? Because now you have 2 quarterbacks who are both really struggling now. We could realistically have a situation where they both suck.
Well, Adam, there is an old saying, if you have 2 quarterbacks, you have none. And good God, I'm hoping that's not true. Now, if you will, consider this. Are you considering?
I'm thinking.
Okay, good. Not think,
I'm
but
listening.
consider. but seriously, Mac. I love Mac Jones. I really do. I have his jersey. But I feel so bad for him. You can tell, like, by his body language on the sideline, he doesn't trust us anymore. He really doesn't. We have shattered his confidence. And when your first round quarterback doesn't trust you, nor does he have any confidence, you're in a worrisome place. And now maybe Bailey Zappe's not all that. Bill, Mac made one mistake and you got greedy. You threw in Zappe and now look what happened. And do you know, Adam, what the scariest part is?
Yeah.
Are you ready?
What's the scariest part? Let's hurry up here.
Doug Kidd,
give it to me,
said Jacoby Myers outright said he was surprised Mac was pulled quickly, and so was Mike Onwenu. And in fact, apparently there's not much communication from coaches to receivers. Apparently they planned on playing both quarterbacks and wasn't communicated well with the team. And even Patriots insider Justin Ramos said, quote, one Patriots player in particular after last night went up to Mac Jones and apologized to him, saying he didn't know he would be benched. And there are people in our own organization who are questioning and wondering, like, why Bill's literally calling a different offense for Zappe versus Jones. There's drama here, and I hate it.
Well, I don't know. Maybe, it seems like this type of offense that they're running with Zappe was the type that they ran with Mac Jones. Is that correct?
No, it was not. Zappe's taking more deep shots.
No, from so it was Mac Jones last season. That's what I mean.
Maybe.
And they kind of played more of a conservative play style.
No, but the offense under Zappe these past few weeks were a lot more explosive. I'm just saying.
A couple plays. Every now and then. When Bailey Zappe decides to throw the ball, he hucks it 40 yards. It's either that or it's a screenplay. There's really not much in between with him. But, it seems that Mac Jones, they just want to play more of a – they want to go with more, take the training wheels off and run an offense where they're throwing the ball all over the place, being the Justin Herbert, the Joe Burrow. And they may not have the weapons that he has, but I think they're respectable. I think Kendrick Bourne, if they could get him out of the freaking doghouse, can do something. I think Devontae Parker has shown tremendous flashes that he can be a wide receiver 1.
Also, don't forget
Jacoby Myers.
No, Tyquan Thornton's been showing flashes too.
And it looks like that. And it looks like that Patriots team has been giving him the opportunities because Nelson Aguilar only saw a few snaps on that team.
Yeah.
But Tyquan Thornton has been taking significant snaps. So, looking at that. All right. Well,
I don't know anymore.
We're going to want to move on, but we're going to get to the Colts and how they have gone through 12 different starting quarterbacks in the past 4 seasons?
Something like that.
It's pretty bad. So we're going to talk about we're going to question their approach and what they should do differently now that they've benched Matt Ryan. Don't go anywhere. This is the Fumblerooski podcast.
Football
This is the Fumblerooski podcast by Power 88, Secret Weapon Consulting. I'm Adam Wright with CJ Medeiros. So, head coach Frank Reich suggested on Monday that the Colts are going to bench quarterback Matt Ryan, the starter, their prized acquisition, for backup Sam Ehlinger. And he is now the 12th quarterback to start under Frank Reich since 2018. So, CJ, they've kind of gone, they haven't really drafted a quarterback, at least a significant one that they're trying to, be their franchise guy. They've been bringing in a lot of guys who are either bridgies or quarterbacks who they want to be the next Peyton Manning on the Broncos. So do you think they need to take more of a conservative approach? What do you think they should start doing more?
Well, first, what do you mean by conservative approach?
As in, how about we draft a quarterback and develop them early on, let's say in the first round?
Yes. Is that even a question? Yes. For the past 4.5 seasons, 5 seasons, if you would, ever since Andrew Luck's retired, Indy has just had bridge quarterback after bridge quarterback after bridge quarterback. Carson Wentz was an experiment. You drafted Sam Ehlinger for some reason. I mean, I liked him in Texas, but he's like a 5th or 6th round pick. And I highly doubt he's going to be like the next Tom Brady. Matt Ryan. Did anyone really think Matt Ryan would be here for the long haul? I mean, I'm fairly certain I've said this on the show before, but Indy just needs to rip off the Band-Aid and and just draft someone in the first round. I mean, that's all I can say. No more bridge quarterbacks. Your fans are tired of it. The analysts are tired of it. Heck, even I'm tired of it. It's just your team will not progress until you get a franchise guy. The longer you wait, the more your window closes. You don't want to waste people like Shaq Leonard and Jonathan Taylor, believe me. Yeah,
look, so it seems like they've gone in the past, let's say 10 years, they've gone to they've gone to two extremes. So they started off in 2011, they tanked after they got rid of Peyton Manning, and the whole suck for luck campaign went on, and they went and got Andrew Luck. And now that they've moved on from Andrew Luck, they've gone for, let's find that one quarterback who's a veteran and try to go all in for a championship like the Broncos did in the early 2010s. And that's clearly not working because, I mean, it's hard to find a quarterback who is that old and still has it. And and you also they need to figure out the playbook. I mean, it has worked a couple of times. With Tom Brady, it worked out, but he's just a different animal. It's hard to just compare a quarterback to Tom Brady, especially this late in the game. He's a freaking, but they just do what everyone else is doing, because you need to find I know it's a pain because finding that next guy is hard, but that's the best way to do it. Find a quarterback, develop him, and you take 3 years. That's the template. 3 years to figure out whether or not he's the guy. If not, you toss him aside, you try again. And it seems that seems hard, but they have to. Because what they're doing isn't working. They're dragging things out. In the time that they've moved on from Luck, it's been 4 years. They could have found two different quarterbacks in the first round by now. Found out one didn't work, then drafted another one. And then that guy works out, and next thing you know, we're right here in the present day, 2022, not 2018, and you have that guy of the future. That's not really you're just dragging things out. In the years where you have Brissett starting, where you have where you have Carson Wentz starting, when you have Phillip Rivers, freaking Brian Hoyer. They have Brian Hoyer I keep forgetting they had Brian Hoyer for a couple of years.
Heck, I forgot they had Phillip Rivers.
Sam Ehlinger already started a couple games. Actually, I don't think he did. Did he? Carson Wentz started the whole season. But still, just they need to change the way they're going about things, because like they do have some good talent around them. Just they're not, the quarterback situation is the part that they're kind of trying to cheap out on. They're just trying to bring in some old veterans and figuring out whether or not these guys can take him to the promised land. Carson Wentz, Phillip Rivers, Matt Ryan, those three guys who are, maybe if they were in their primes, they'd be able to do a little something. But at this point in their careers, I mean, it's not every day where you see a Peyton Manning or a Tom Brady who is just able to do what they do late in their careers. It's just, that's rare. That's very rare. I don't know. That's my 2 cents.
Yeah, you're correct.
But we do want to move on, and we are going to go on to the Fumblerooski Fantasy Fix, where we are going to give you guys our Week 8 waiver wire pickups. So we're going to tell you exactly who you should pick up in your league. So don't go anywhere. This is the Fumblerooski Podcast. Welcome back to the Fumblerooski Podcast by Power 88. Secret Weapon Consulting, Adam Wright with CJ Medeiros. We have reached the Fumblerooski Fantasy Fix, where we give you fantasy football advice. We go on Tuesdays, waiver wire pickups, and Fridays, stardom sit-ems. So today, of course, is waiver wire pickups. So we're going to start with running backs, where I'm going to give you Deontay Foreman and Gus Edwards, two players who really impressed this past week and are most likely on your waiver wire. They're free agents. Go out and get them if they're not already. Then for wide receiver, we have Paris Campbell and Mecole Hardman, two players who are also not widely owned, but you should still try and get them on your lineup, on your roster. Going off to tight ends, Taysom Hill and Greg Dulcich. Then going to quarterback streamers, we're going to give you Daniel Jones, who is facing Seattle this week. And we have Sam Ehlinger versus Washington. And going on to defense/special teams streamers, we're going to give you the Jacksonville Jaguars defense versus Denver. And then the Panthers at Atlanta. So there is your official Week 8 waiver wire pickups for the Fumblerooski Podcast. So good luck to you guys on those picks. And that has been your Fumblerooski Fantasy Fix. Up next, we're going to get to our Fumblerooski Fan Box. We're going to get you guys to predict the Giants' final regular season record. That's next. You are listening to the Fumblerooski Podcast. You are listening to the Fumblerooski Podcast by Power 88 and Secret Weapon Consulting. Adam Wright with CJ Medeiros. And we are on to the Fumblerooski Fan Box, where we post a question filter on our Instagram every Monday, and you can respond with hot takes, questions, and more. and we will discuss it and give you a shout out on our podcast. Respond to next week's Fanbox question to be featured on our show. Now, the question of the week, and more of a statement or a command, as you will, if you will, predict the Giants' final regular season record. So one of the great surprises this season, at a 6-1 start for the Giants, I kind of got curious. What do you guys think their final record is going to be? Because they're off to a hot start, which nobody saw coming, or at least many people didn't. So going on to our answers, we have Damon Bergfeld, who said 9-8. So essentially predicted a collapse, if you will. Zachary Stilson said 12-5. I'd say that's a pretty good record. So that would mean they're 6-1. That would mean they're going like 5-6, correct? 5-6, or excuse me, 6-5. So that's
something like that.
500 down the stretch. It's crazy to predict such a great record would be only 6-5 down the stretch. But Mike Braun said 10-6-1. So that's bold, predicting a tie in there. Those are very rare.
Yeah, go big or go home, I guess.
Or tie. Then Landon Weber said 10-7. I'd say so because they're exceeding expectations. I guess I could see these lower records to be, I guess, realistic. Sounds right because I just it feels like they're performing better than their record suggests. Like they're still competitive, but this feels like a 500 team.
Yeah,
they've been performing. But Robert Canedo said 12-5. Another one where it's a good record, but it suggests that they go 6-5 down the stretch. So kind of still a collapse there. Cola DJ said 9-8. So another major collapse right there. That means you get a losing record down the stretch. Eli Turner said they have a lot of easy games, so 12-5. That's still 6-5 record after this. Stephen Parker said if Saquon is healthy, their schedule seems easy, 13-4.
Ooh.
That is an interesting point to bring up, is that Saquon has been the staple of this team. Without him, they haven't been able to produce any offense. It's not Daniel Jones who's doing it. He's doing great not turning the ball over. But in terms of putting points on the board, it's been Saquon who's been it's courtesy of Saquon. So, yeah, if he gets hurt, then this all goes down the drain, doesn't it? All of it. They may finish with a losing record if he gets hurt because they have nothing else. Their wide receiving core is respectable, but it's always hurt. Always hurt.
Oh, and Adam?
Yeah.
I would like to quickly bring up Daniel Jones's stat line. This is another thing where, I mean, he's keeping the mistakes to a minimum, but only a 66% completion percentage, about 1,223 yards.
66 is pretty good.
Yeah, it's good, but, 6 touchdowns,
really
2 picks. But, I mean, he's not putting the team on his back and winning games, He hasn't even passed for over 300 yards this year. His highest is 217.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. He's been more of a kind of a game manager. Like, he's not the reason they're losing, which is actually big for a quarterback. It's a very underrated thing.
He's also not the reason they're winning either. Because
just not turning the ball over and keeping the defense off the field while your running back in Saquon Barkley is running the clock out, that's huge. So I do think that can be part of it. Because once you turn the ball over, that whole scheme goes away. So I do think it's part of it. He's just not he's not playing a huge factor. He's not lighting the world on fire.
Yeah, it's true.
So Isaac Zonana said 11-6. So yeah, that's another realistic one. Your boy Ian Mulhern also said 11-6. That's a reasonable record. It means they finished with going down the stretch with a losing record, but Dylan Powell said 13-4, as well as William Mantle, who also said 13-4.
Perhaps.
That's a bold record. 13-4 for
Like
the Daniel Jones led Giants.
I don't even think they're going to be better than Philly, to be perfectly honest.
You think they're going to be better?
No, I said I don't think that.
Well, yeah. I mean, Philly's
So
6-0.
But is Philly going to go like above 13-4? We'll never know until the season's over.
I think they will.
Perhaps.
I think they will. We'll see what happens, barring some epic collapse.
Yeah.
But that is the last of our responses. CJ, any other thoughts before we end the show tonight?
Nope. Not a one.
All right. So that'll do it for us tonight. Thank you for listening to us. We have new episodes out on Tuesdays and Fridays at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We also have all our episodes available on Spotify, Spreaker, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, and so much more. Also, be sure to follow our Instagram at Fumblerooski_podcast to keep up with our podcast and the latest coverage on the NFL. Otherwise, we'll see you next week. Over and out.